If you've been feeling the call to write a book, it is no accident. Your book is needed in the world, so let's make it happen. I'm Nicola Humber, and this is the Unbound Writers Club. Hello, and welcome to the Unbound Writers Club. Got something a little bit different for you today and very exciting because I am being joined by Lindsey Elms. So Lindsey is one of our authors at the Unbound Press. Her second book, Guided by Autism, a companion for late diagnosed autistic women, is, well, by the time you listen to this, it will be out now. And with this book, Lindsey and we knew that we wanted to do some kind of collaboration to celebrate the launch of it. And when we were talking about ideas, because Lindsey is autistic and she wanted to create our collaboration in a way that felt good for her. Like, she knew she didn't want to kind of host some live Zoom session where we invited everyone to come along. So we came up with this idea of doing like an Ask Me Anything session where members of the Unbound Writing community got to pre-submit questions about autism, neurodiversity, how we show up in the world, how we are visible, how we can possibly write books when we are operating differently to a lot of other people in the world, and the ways that perhaps we've been taught, trained, conditioned to do things. So a couple of weeks ago, I sent an email to my email list saying, look, we're going to do this Ask Me Anything session. If you've got questions, pop them over, and then Lindsey will speak to them when we record our podcast conversation. And we got such great questions, such an incredible response. I was like, oh, I was excited about this. And now I'm even more excited to have this conversation for you to listen in, whether you are autistic yourself, whether you have a diagnosis or not. Maybe you are just neurospicy in some way, or certainly not neurotypical, or maybe you are neurotypical, but you are curious to know more about what it is like to be, in particular, a late diagnosed autistic woman. Maybe you feel like you operate a little bit differently, and you want to hear what Lindsey has to say, and it will hopefully feel supportive for you. Wherever you're at, I feel like you're going to love this conversation. And part of what we talk about is how you can actually write and publish a book, like however you are operating in the world, whatever your kind of operating system is, should we say. So I am going to, zip it for now, and we will dive into this Ask Me Anything session with Lindsey. I think you're going to love this one. So Lindsey, welcome back to the Unbound Writers Club.
Thank you so much, Nicola.
I'm so excited about this episode. I mean, I always say that, but this one feels really special because we're doing something a bit different. Usually when a book is coming out, we will record a podcast conversation about your experience when it came to writing it and telling a bit of that story. And I'm sure that's going to come through in our conversation today. But as part of the launch for Guided by Autism, we wanted to do this Ask Me Anything session, like episode, where we've invited members of the Unbound Writing community to send in questions, like any questions that they had about autism, like neurodiversity, whatever was on their mind, and you're going to speak to those. So we're going to dive into those shortly. But before we do, because obviously you published your first book, Guided by Love, with us, and that came out last year. And then very quickly you were like, oh, there's another book. And I'd like to work with you on this one. Why did you feel called to write Guided by Autism?
Okay, so first of all, I'm super, super excited to be here, and I'm thrilled to be answering some juicy questions. So we'll start with that first juicy question. So why did I write Guided by Autism? So I got my diagnosis and then very quickly realized that there was very little support for people who were late diagnosed, who were women. We seem to have quite different experience compared to other folk that either are self-identified or diagnosed. And I was just astounded, Nicola, astounded at the lack of support, the lack of compassion, the lack of information that was available to me after such a huge life-shifting experience, news, and I felt like completely left out at sea. And once I'd found my footing, I just couldn't let other people experience that alone. You know, I felt kind of duty bound because I love writing and because I love research and because I quite like kind of expressing complicated ideas in a way that's digestible for people. So, because I know that I'm able to do that, I really wanted to help other women in my situation because it's such a beautiful gift to understand yourself. It's such a beautiful self-awareness to have about how to effectively live through the lens of your neurotype. So that's what called me to do it. And I love the process.
Oh, me too. I loved holding space for it. Every time you sent a chapter over, I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So good. I'm really, really excited for this one to make its way into the world. I know it's going to make a difference to so many readers. Those who maybe have experienced an autism diagnosis, but also anyone who's curious or perhaps knows somebody else who has been through the process, particularly late diagnosed autism or some other kind of neurodiversity.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And there was a lot of interest, like in these questions. Like immediately, I was getting questions coming across when I invited them. So, I know this is going to be such a rich conversation. So, shall we dive in with the first one?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So I will read this one out. This was the first one to come across. And this person says, as a woman now entering my 60s, I find myself looking back over my life and wondering whether autism might explain some of my experiences and ways of being, even though it was never something I considered when I was younger. What advice would you give to someone who's beginning to explore that possibility and wants to better understand herself?
A wonderful, juicy question. And thank you so much for asking it. And I think it's so brave to be vulnerable and ask that kind of question. So I will try and do all of these questions justice. So there's so many things that I could say, but you're asking specifically for how to understand yourself better through the kind of potential guise of autism. So the first thing I probably want to say to you is you've always been autistic. You know, you're born with it. It's not something that you inherit. So if you've got a level of understanding about yourself already, you're building on that. And I think that learning is lifelong. It's incredibly valuable. You know, personal growth encourages you to essentially give yourself more grace, to feel confident in your own skin. So the more of that you can do, the better. The caveat being, I would really advise you to choose your resources very carefully. So when I was first looking, you know, the first thing we do is go to Google, right? You know, late diagnosed autism. What's all about that? What is autism? And sadly, the first things that come up, generally speaking, are quite medicalized, they're quite deficit based, and it just makes your heart sink. So please don't do that. I mean, of course, read the book.
Yeah, first step. First step for everyone, read the book.
And also look out for neuro-affirming people. If you are on Instagram, things like hashtag actually autistic, and anything that's kind of written by autistic people for autistic people. Dr. Luke Bearden talks about, one of the most useful things that autistic people can do is learn about autism and what it means for them, like teaching autism to autistic people. And I think that's really true. So yeah, so anything by Luke Bearden, I would suggest. You've got people like Megan Anna Neff. She's a really kind of inspirational person to listen to. And anyone that kind of comes across your radar who feels supportive, who lifts you up, who doesn't make you feel less than, that makes your difference make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came across also Samantha Craft's work, which is like a list of traits that women have in particular. So if you just Google Samantha Craft, you'll find her list. And there are a couple of quite good diagnostic tools that you can use online. So I would start with that. The other thing that I wanted to say was try not to look back in anger, and I can hear the Oasis song playing in my head.
Yeah,
Don't look back in anger.
We won't sing it for you, people,
No.
but
I don't have a singing voice, but look back with curiosity. I would really encourage you to do. Look back with a sense of how can this be useful to me now? I mean, I found that there was a fair amount of grief and there was all kinds of processing that I needed to do. But I decided quite quickly that I can't change the past. And I'm probably going off track a little bit here, but I kind of decided that a lot of nice things have happened in my life. And I've got to this point, and like the universe, I felt, decided to kind of give me a nudge and get me to explore my neurotype at this moment in time. Like, so embrace it, I would say. Make space for the beauty of difference and choose your resources wisely.
Perfect. I love that. That phrase, make space for the beauty of difference. That just feels like such good advice, like generally in life, and something that doesn't happen enough. So thank you for saying that, Lindsey. And what was coming through as you were speaking was like compassion, like have compassion for yourself as you reflect back and for others, and and how your life, how those differences might have been received in the past, or judgments that you may have made about yourself in the past. So really, really beautiful, fantastic, really good starting place for that person. So it'd be interesting to see how she moves ahead with that. And like you say, reading the book is a great starting point as well, I think, for anyone who's curious about this. I'm going to move on to the next question. I love this one, which is about visibility. How can we reframe visibility through an autistic lens? So we're told that if we don't want to be visible, it's because of unhealed trauma. However, this doesn't fit for people with autistic characteristics. That masking and forcing yourself to be visible can be the issue. authenticity looks different. So what would you say to that, Lindsey? Because I know, this is part of that we've had these kind of conversations about visibility and how you do it in a way that feels aligned. But yeah,
Yeah.
what's your take on this?
Well, thank you for the question. Another really juicy one. So I hear what you're saying about the messages that we get, especially in neurotypical kind of world, and also in some respects, like like the mind, body, spirit world.
Mm,
It's not always kind of rainbows and unicorns. Sometimes there can be, even if it's not meant, like a bit of judgment. So that said, I think there can certainly be the truth in not wanting to be visible due to unhealed trauma. I think that is definitely a thing. And there's also a truth in not being able to be visible, say, due to sensory sensitivities, like me. I'll come back to that. And like kind of a mixture of both and all kinds of other things going on. So I do hear you, but I think because our brains are very good at black and white thinking, are very good at, like tunnel vision, it can be really easy to go down rabbit holes. And early on in the book, I talk about making a choice between going down the more negative spiral or spiraling up through growth and learning and understanding and compassion. So I would encourage you to go with the latter.
mm, yeah.
Yeah. So I would probably pose a question back to the person that asked the question. And I would say, is there a version of visibility that is comfortable for you?
Love that.
That is something that I'm working on and that Nicola has helped me with for sure, because it's not the norm, is it? We are in a kind of a minority, really, where we live in a quite a loud, busy, fast-paced environment. And I, for one, and I know speaking to other autistic people, feel like our voices can get lost in the crowd.
Mm,
And it can be quite easy to, doubt whether doing it differently will still have an impact. I believe it can, and it does. And writing is a wonderful way of cutting through the noise and getting to the depth of something. So for me, visibility isn't on screen,
mm,
it's not neon lights, it's depth, it's immersive, it's collaborative, it's making people feel something and feel connected with the words and being visible that way. So being authentically yourself for sure is being visible. And I'm hoping that there'll be more ways that I can kind of share with you in future how I've discovered being visible. But for now, trust that it's possible.
absolutely. Absolutely. There are always, like, visibility isn't just one thing. And I think we very much can pick up the idea that it's just, being out there on social media, or, having like big communities or whatever it is, or speaking on stages. And
Yeah,
what I love about you, Lindsey, is that you are really committed to finding your own way as an author
yeah,
around being visible, and having a book in itself, like you say, is visibility. And it's a really beautiful way to be visible, both for the author, because, you get to take your time with it. You're in your own process. And then for the
yeah,
reader, I feel like more and more of us are craving that experience of, like, I don't want all the noise. I want to be with a book. Like, I know I
yeah,
crave this. Hold a book in my hands and just, have that. It's almost like a one-to-one connection with the author, but actually without actually having to be in one-to-one with them, because sometimes that can feel a bit intense. So it's like, no, I'm just going to do this through the form of a book. So I love that. And actually what we're doing here is a perfect example of you being visible in a way that works for you, because we knew we wanted to do some kind of collaboration around the
Yeah.
book launch. And you were like, actually, I don't want to host some kind of big Zoom, call for lots of people. Let's do something different. And this feels like, to have have people asking questions, but you having those in advance as well, so that we can like know what's coming. It just feels, yeah, I love that, well, it's through your suggestion that we came to this. So absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels so good. And I'm super glad that we decided to do it this way. And also, you're all getting kind of the best of me.
Yes.
If I was up on a stage, I would just go purple and not be able to speak and run away, because I'm able to have some control over my environment and not feel like I'm in the spotlight. We're just having a conversation between friends. Then I'm able to express myself more fully. You get more of my vulnerability, my story, and certainly through the book as well. I share all kinds of different things that felt safer to write down
Yeah.
than they do than they would to maybe speak to a crowd of people. I've just remembered something that I was going to say to the previous question about sensory sensitivities. So, being autistic, one of the beauties and challenges of it, shall we say, is having different experience of sensory inputs. And I know lots of autistic people that thrive on being like, being on stage, speaking, traveling around the country and kind of talking about their passion. Like Pete Wamby, for example, I see him going all over the place. And at first I was like, oh, what's wrong with me? And then I quickly shook that off and I was like, no, my system is very different. So I have a really high sensitivity and a low threshold. So what that means is if I get too many stimuli coming in at once, I immediately respond to it, and then my system just wants to take me away from it, to run away. So I physically can't do visibility because my body just won't let me.
Mm, mm,
It just
yeah.
won't. It just won't. And I've taught Reiki for many years. I've always been interested in kind of mindfulness and yoga and had lots of kind of mentoring and counseling and all that kind of thing. So it's not like I've got a lot of stuff I haven't looked under the hood
Mm,
for. It's I've made peace with the fact that it's just not the way that my brain works.
yeah. Yeah. It's so powerful to have that awareness, isn't it? And acceptance. It's
Yeah,
like, no, this is not like,
yeah,
again, this is not something that's wrong with me. I don't
yeah,
have to try and do all of this healing and transformation to get to a point where I can do this, because like
yeah.
that's like doing it in a particular way, whether that's visibility or writing or, the way we live our lives. Like that's not the aspiration, is it? Like to do it in like
No,
the way that most people do. It's like, no, the
no,
aspiration is to find your own way, the way that feels good for you. So yeah, love that.
100%,
Love that.
100%.
Oh, goodness, we could have a whole episode about visibility, I think.
Oh gosh, we could for sure.
Let's move on to the next question, though, which is, I can't tell the difference between just being in a family that wanted me to be always wrong because it was more comfortable for them, or whether that's me having undiagnosed, low support, high masking autism. So, what would you say to that person, Lindsey?
So, firstly, I would say I hear you, and I can hear the pain in the question. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And I think because you have been drawn to the subject of autism, because you are considering it, I think there's probably quite a high chance that there's something in it, because most people don't explore autism and the fact that they might be autistic just because. Like, they wake up and go, oh, well, I don't know, I've been hearing about autism on the news, maybe I am. Like, that generally doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's generally a catalyst, a spark, something that kind of encourages you to explore it. And I want you to know it can be a real gift. And although it it's hard, it gets easier once you understand and once you have some awareness. Unfortunately, there's not a huge amount we can do about family members.
Mm.
We can encourage them to support us in the way that we need it. We can give them books and pamphlets and information, and yet there may not be the level of understanding that you would like. But don't worry about that, because once you kind of delve into autism communities and start kind of interacting with people like me, for example, um, you'll find that there's support there, there's understanding there, and you can kind of draw on that. So it's really, really common to feel like you're on the outside of things, looking in, not getting things right, second guessing yourself when your brain processes the world differently, and your family members are kind of viewing the world in quite a different way. And unfortunately, if you're kind of seeing the world in a way that's very different to them, it's easier sometimes for people just to make you wrong than to delve into what's going on. So I took a note. I wanted to read you something out from the book. On page 68, there's a section called The Heartache of Disbelief. And I think I wrote this for exactly this kind of question. So one of the most frustrating, heart-wrenching, yet all too common experiences for autistic people, especially when you aren't aware of your autism yet, is not being believed. This disbelief creates a huge barrier to getting the understanding and support you need. Even when others try to imagine themselves in your shoes, it can be difficult for them to truly grasp your experience because it's so different from their own. Without lived experience, they're often filtering your reality through their version of normal. And what makes perfect sense to you may sound confusing or exaggerated to them. And then a little bit further down, I've got trying to explain how your brain works differently can feel like facing another barrier altogether. You're not only describing your inner world, you're also asking someone to believe in something they can't see or feel themselves. Especially like that last bit. You're asking someone to believe in something that they can't see or feel themselves. So oodles of compassion and love to you. It's not easy, but that's what I would say.
Yeah, Beautiful. Beautiful, Lindsay. So supportive. So, I mean, it sounds like maybe the family members need to read your book as well. I think that's what, so, to have that understanding. Absolutely. But thank you. That was gorgeous. Thanks, Lindsay. I love that you shared a bit of the book as well.
Ah,
That you found
yes.
a part that felt particularly supportive. Moving on from that, the next question. We've got a couple more. And this one is, over the last year, I've started accepting and processing that I'm autistic. It's brought up a lot of stuff, and I'm wondering if it's worth the emotional and financial investment getting officially diagnosed. What would you say to that, Lindsay?
Awesome. So I would say yes.
Mhm. There you go. There's your answer.
That's it. Job done.
Yeah.
No. So, yes, because when I was thinking about how to answer this, again, I think the best way to answer it is through giving you a little bit of an insight into the stages of the book, the unfolding map. So in the book, I've got 5 stages that I went through, and I have witnessed other autistic women going through in particular. And it's not like a linear journey. It's I don't know if you're aware of like the this spiral circumference, the spiral curriculum
Mhm.
where you move up and down through the spiral, going back to experiences and seeing them in a different way once you have gained some more clarity, etc. That's a nice way that I like to think about, well, life in general, really.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that you've read quite a lot, that you're learning about autism, and that all kinds of feelings have popped up. I can imagine that you felt validated, you've had aha moments, and you've also most likely felt grief and frustration, discombobulation, which is one of my absolute favorite words.
Me too.
Um, uh, and um, and what I would love anyone on this journey to get to is self-acceptance, peace, self-compassion, and grace. So it sounds like you're already on the journey, and I would really encourage you to continue with it. Now, there is merit in self-identification, of course, and not everyone does have access to the funds to be able to, say, go privately for a diagnosis. If you can, though, I would, because it gives you it gives you a solid yes to your question.
Mm.
Is probably the best way I can describe it. And because autistic brains are really good at pattern seeking, and we're good at researching, we like to have the answer. We
Mm.
feel safer. I certainly felt safer when I got the yes, you are,
Mm.
because wondering like either way isn't a very nice space to be in. So it is worth it for sure. And as I say, you'll most likely go through the 5 stages, which are the realization, so the light bulb moments, the research. So it sounds like you've already started that. The unraveling, which is feeling a bit unsettled, exploring kind of old ways of being and needing space to process. Then you've got the exploring, which is evaluating, revisiting, exploring what it means to be autistic. Then you've got the reclaiming, which is starting to build a life that fits. And the becoming is then living in your truth. So I'd love you to be able to go from the light bulb moments and feeling a bit unsettled to living in your truth and getting a solid yes, a confirmation, I believe can really help you get there.
I love that you just gave a really kind of clear and decisive answer to that. It's like, yes, and these are my reasons. Thanks, Lindsay. Oh, wonderful.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Thank you. So we're going to move to the final question, which was somebody who emailed. I sent the email out like asking people for questions, and this person responded to me. I'm going to read like a big chunk of their email because I just yeah, because this
Oh, it was lovely,
relates
wasn't it?
directly to the book
Yeah.
writing process. So she said, I've been following your work and the work of the Unbound Press since the beginning, and I read every email you send with interest. Thank you. However, I was super excited to read this one about the release of Guided by Autism. Yay! I also had a late ASD diagnosis in 2023 when I was 46. To say how ASD has affected my life so far, even before I had any inkling I was autistic, and in brackets, just weird, I'm sure would fill another book. However, I would love to know how Lindsay has found the book writing and publication process whilst being on the spectrum, as I know I just couldn't cope with a lot of the publication process. There seems to be a lot of emphasis on creating a community, which I couldn't do. I struggle to keep in contact with my close friends, let alone create and lead a community, even an online one. I hate meetings and can't even cope with Zoom or FaceTime. I certainly couldn't go to book launches, stand up and speak, or do question and answer sessions. Therefore, I've always considered the book writing and publication process for people like me to be almost impossible. Therefore, I'm so happy that Lindsay has written this book and cannot wait to read it. I'm sure there will be so many others like myself who will also be looking forward to reading it. Being ASD, I quite often feel left out, not part of something, or on the outside looking in. So it really is lovely to sometimes discover that we aren't alone in how we're feeling. Oh, like that brought
Beautiful.
tears to my eyes,
I
like reading
know.
it.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah. And, I guess there's a bit of a similarity there between the visibility question, but this one's more directly related to the process of writing a book. I mean, how have you navigated this, Lindsay?
Okay, so gently, I would say.
Mm, mm,
I would encourage gentleness and to soften the self-doubt, the any kind of self-criticism that might pop up. The big thing I want to say is you don't have to do it anyone else's way.
mm,
Being artistic in a mainly kind of neurotypical world, if you like, we often feel like we have to do the same as everyone else to fit in. And you really don't have to, because there's a beauty in the way that your brain processes the world and a beauty in the way that you think differently. We could probably spend a whole hour just talking about that. So you can do it in your way.
mm,
If you really want to do it, I believe that you absolutely can. And I totally get all of the things that you've said about the roadblocks, the challenges that come up in when you potentially think about it. So first of all, I think you need to have a real fire in your belly and a real passion for what you want to write about,
mm,
because that will carry you. So for me, Guided by Autism just felt like she really wanted to be out in the world. I felt a real responsibility to get it out there, to get the awareness out there. So that can really take you a very long way. So write something that you're passionate about, write something that you kind of wake up and think about and go, oh, I really want to share that, because you'll be able to share it in your unique way that only you can write. So I think that would be the first thing. And then there's different ways to have a community. There's different ways to go through the process. So being part of the Unbound team, you're not left alone. You've got so much support. So, I had the absolute pleasure of speaking with Nicola every Monday, and we had like these beautiful check-ins. Then Karen was an amazing editor. Then Linda brought the most beautiful inside cover, interior design and outside design. And then, like, depending on how far you want to go, I've done a bit of work with the beautiful Jo Gifford to help me with my social media. So I've never felt alone. I've always felt 100% supported. And then when you get a bit further down the line, Mulholland is just amazing at kind of keeping you in check, keeping you updated, keeping you on the right track so you know what's happening when within the process. So Unbound becomes your community, your safe space to create. And that's not scary at all.
We try not to be scary. I can't guarantee
Yeah.
that we won't always be scared. No, we're
not. And I totally get what you're saying about you struggle to keep up with friends. Me too. Totally get you on that one. I've tried to run a Facebook group in the past, and I got really excited for a couple of weeks and was like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to post like, 3 times a week, and I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And then life happened, and I maybe kind of got a bit overwhelmed, and then I couldn't face doing any of it. And, there needs to be consistency with things like Facebook groups. So I just decided that just wasn't for me. My kind of spiky skill set and my kind of fluctuating capacity just doesn't allow for it. What you can do is write when you feel called to, when you've got this amazing idea and you want to get it down on paper. Then you can take time to write it and then, upload it onto Substack or something like that. And then your community finds you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm finding for sure. And then when you get feedback, you realize that other people start saying, oh, me too. And I feel like that. And then you don't feel alone and you feel validated. So do it in your way and have a team around you and write about what you're passionate about.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Thanks, Lindsey. Thank you. And just to say on that note, certainly for us at the Unbound Press, I mean, a lot of our team are, have one form of neurodiversity. I would say pretty much none of us are neurotypical. And we are really committed to supporting each author in the way that feels good for them. I mean, you mentioned our Monday check-ins, like that definitely wasn't a Zoom call. Like, I don't think either of us, I mean, I love you, but Neither of us would have wanted to get on a Zoom call every
No.
Monday. That was via WhatsApp. And I remember, like, for a lot of my clients, that the Monday check-in is about intentions. And I remember us having this conversation. You were like, "Oh, I'm not sure about that word intention." I'm like, "It's okay, I won't use it." It's just like
Yeah.
checking in, literally. And the same with, the different members of the team, whether it's editing, design. Like, if people want to get on a Zoom call and like have that connection with who they're working with, amazing. But we can do things, via email if that feels better. Then we always find a way that works
Yeah.
best. So I think it's important to know, like, we can have this idea that, like, if you're going to write a book, you have to do it in this particular way, but you really don't. There's support out there that you can do it in a way that feels good for you. And oh, you're just such an inspiration, Lindsey. Like, thank you so much. I mean, thank you to everyone who sent a question in. I feel like if there's any follow-up questions, do
Oh,
let us
yes,
know,
please.
because I'm sure, we could do a whole other episode on this. It might become a regular thing. Uh, I said to Lindsey, she'll be like the agony aunt of the autism world.
Oh, yes, yes, please. I love answering questions.
I know, fantastic. And that's the thing, that the person who kind of asked that question said, wouldn't be able to do question and answer sessions. I think I mean, I don't really like doing that if it's like live and on the spot. It's like, oh, give me, like, I always get insights afterwards when they're percolating away,
Yeah,
so doing something like this where you can have the questions in advance, is, no, it feels really good.
it
Um,
does. It
yeah.
does.
So thank you, Lindsey. For those who are
Thank
listening,
you.
who are going to want to find out more about you and connect, what's the best way for them to do that? Apart from buying your book, and if you haven't got the message already, you need to buy the book. But apart from that, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. Probably the most central place to find me is my website, lindseyelms.com. And feel free to, send me a little message if you'd like to. I've got a contact form, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you. And thanks so much for your interest. I'm like super excited.
Me too. Me too. Really excited. Thank you so much, Lindsey. It's been a really
Thank
special
you.
episode. I'm really looking forward to sharing this one and seeing Guided by Autism making its way into the world,
Yay.
weaving a magic. Yeah, I'm so grateful you're part of the Unbound Press family of authors, Lindsey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, darling. Thank you.